What's up, world? It's your man, MrSan44Man, seen in over 100 plus countries around the world. And you're tuned into the Detroit Raw Show, only on YouTube. What's up, world? It's your man, MrSan44Man, back with y'all. This is sort of like part 2 of the Trayvon Martin story. I told y'all it was gonna get ugly. Just last night, it got violent in California. Folks just started mobbing up and just start fucking people up. And that was the way it just went on. If you don't believe me, check this out.
Turning violent, at least 20 people arrested in California during a new wave of protests tied to the George Zimmerman verdict, as a member of the jury speaks out for the very first time.
We had put our vote in, and the bailiff had taken our vote. That's when everybody started crying.
This morning, that first vote in the jury room that had some jurors ready to convict, and the emotions that ran high.
Okay,
we'll get more on the heat and humidity in just a moment, but we'll start out here in that overnight violence in California, where peaceful protests over the acquittal of George Zimmerman deteriorated into a heated clash.
Well, they're beating somebody up, and they just robbed somebody.
The LAPD went on tactical alert after about 150 people took to the streets of southwest Los Angeles overnight, vandalizing businesses and attacking bystanders.
Unfortunately, the rights of the many have been abused by the actions of a few.
Protests across the city started off peaceful until a small faction of violent protesters swarmed motorists, jumping onto cars and shutting down major intersections. LA's new mayor, Eric Garcetti, said the mob sought to exploit the acquittal of George Zimmerman in the shooting death of Florida teen Trayvon Martin.
The Martin family was very clear that those who sympathize with their plight, the best way to honor their son and their loved one is in a nonviolent manner.
A local reporter and cameraman were assaulted while covering the unrest. The photographer was taken to a local hospital with minor injuries. In the meantime, we are learning new details about what led to George Zimmerman's acquittal from the first member of the jury to speak out. NBC's Kerry Sanders is in Sanford, Florida. He has that part of the story. Kerry, good morning to you.
Well, good morning. Juror B37, who lives somewhere here in Seminole County, sat down and did an extensive interview with CNN. In that interview that lasted more than 30 minutes, she said that when the 6 jurors went into the jury room, 1 believed that George Zimmerman was guilty of second-degree murder, 2 thought he was guilty of manslaughter, and 3 believed George Zimmerman was not guilty.
Not guilty.
Juror B37 sat in silhouette, talking to CNN's Anderson Cooper about the weight of the jury's decision.
It's just hard, thinking that somebody lost their life. And there's nothing else could be done about it. I mean, it's what happened. It's sad.
B37 is the first of the 6 jurors to speak, revealing how she says the jury concluded when George Zimmerman shot and killed 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, it was not a crime.
It's a tragedy that's happened, but it happened. I think both were responsible for the situation they had gotten themselves into. I think both of them could have walked away.
George Zimmerman was armed with this Kel-Tec 9mm pistol. B37 once had a concealed weapons permit. Her husband, she says, owns a gun. Zimmerman fired a single shot that pierced Martin's heart and lung. In a defense animation, lawyers argued Trayvon Martin first punched George Zimmerman, and then the 2 fought.
Because of the heat of the moment and the stand your ground. And he had a right to defend himself. If he felt threatened that his life was going to be taken away from him or he was going to have bodily harm, he had a right.
She says in deliberations, the jury repeatedly played back the police videotape where Zimmerman reenacted what he said happened. And they listened over and over again to the 911 phone call with that scream for help and the gunshot.
So you think you're getting help?
Yes.
All right, what is your gunshot?
Whose voice do you think it was in the 911 call?
I think it was George Zimmerman's.
Did everybody in the jury agree with that?
All but probably one.
By order of the judge, prosecutors could only say Zimmerman profiled Martin. They could not say he was racially profiled.
So you don't believe race played a role in this case?
I don't think it did. I think if there was another person, Spanish, white, Asian, if they came in the same situation that where Trayvon was, I think George would have reacted the exact same way.
In an HLN interview Monday night, Special Prosecutor Angela Corey was asked for one word to describe George Zimmerman.
Murderer.
In the wake of this verdict that's resulted in protests and in some cases, as we've seen, violence, defense attorney Mark O'Mara says, quote, if someone is hurt because of Angela Corey's incendiary word, murderer, action should be taken to hold her responsible. Angela Corey was unavailable for further comment. Matt?
This morning, Carrie, thank you. Lisa Bloom is today's legal analyst. Lisa, good morning to you.
Good morning.
I'm going to go through the headlines from this juror's interview, okay? She said that while she thought Zimmerman probably got in too deep, shouldn't have been there in that situation, she felt that it was Trayvon Martin who decided to attack George Zimmerman, prompting the fatal altercation.
Well, and that was the defense theory of the case, that Zimmerman may have followed and even approached Trayvon Martin, but that Trayvon Martin began the fight by punching him, sucker punching him in the face.
She said she did not believe that George Zimmerman profiled Trayvon Martin. She did not feel that race played a significant role in the situation.
Right, and isn't it fascinating how in the run-up to the case and after the case, it's been all about race in the demonstrations. But inside the courtroom, the prosecution team told the jurors, this case is not about race. They said that a couple of times.
You actually write about this in an op-ed in the New York Times today about this subject.
I do, about, in my opinion, how the prosecution bungled the race issue in the trial. They could have done a better job of addressing it squarely.
All right, the audio tape of the 911 call where there's a scream for help before the gunshot that killed Trayvon Martin. This juror said all but one of the jurors believed the voice on that tape calling for help was that of George Zimmerman.
You know, and we all thought that the witnesses on both sides would cancel each other out on that, but she was particularly impressed by a former Army doctor who had testified he heard people screaming on the battlefield, and he could identify voices that way, and he identified George Zimmerman. She thought he was one of the best witnesses in the case.
One of the things that stood out to me, she used the word confusing on a number of occasions. She said they had to consider second-degree murder, they had to consider manslaughter, they had to think about self-defense, they had to think about stand your ground. Based on what you heard from this juror, do you think she had a clear understanding of the laws she was being asked to deliberate?
I think the jury instructions were very confusing. 27 pages, I read through them. At one point, they sent out a note during their deliberations that they didn't understand the manslaughter charge. They never got a clear answer, and ultimately they came back with an acquittal. But if anything, this is a call to clear up those jury instructions for future jurors.
And on a related subject, she said she believes that whether Trayvon Martin may have reached for George Zimmerman's gun or not, it didn't make a difference because George Zimmerman had a right to protect himself.
Well, he did if he was reasonably in fear of imminent great bodily injury or death. Reasonably, not any fear. And the question of whether or not he was reaching for the gun, you know, ultimately, both sides were arguing reasonable doubt by the end of this trial. So it doesn't surprise me she decided the case the way she did.
Based on the eventual verdict, does it surprise you that she said going into deliberations, 3 of the jurors were in favor of acquittal, 2 in favor of convicting on manslaughter charges, and 1 on second-degree murder?
You know, that is fascinating to me, that the case was at least close at the beginning of deliberations, but by the end, you know, they had a clear consensus for acquittal.
Lisa Bloom. Lisa, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Stan, and I've been watching the Black Power community for the last 100 years. I just noticed that you guys have been having some problems figuring out what to do about me. You see, I'm a cracker. Yeah, the white man. The guy that has been running the whole world for the last 2,000 years. Well, the reason that I stopped by to speak with you today is to help. I've been watching you guys fight over gaining real black power, and thought I would give you a few pointers. Since we white guys have been running things since we invaded Africa, I figured I would lay out a blueprint to help you achieve your objectives. Might as well use a plan that works, right? Besides, it beats the backward, no progress, mistake repeating methods you people have been trying for the last 400 years. So I knew all of you needed some help. Especially after Barack Obama got into office. He's a great guy, But a black man in a white man's house ain't really saying much considering all the hell you people have been through. Don't get me wrong. In many ways I know you were happy to get at least one black into office. This is good when you want to run politics, but ruling the world is what we white folks specialize in. Have you ever heard of the Illuminati? Well, that is the kind of coordination you are going to need to begin taking over the world. Okay, let's get started. Today, I am going to give you 3 things that we did to take over the world. You can use these too, and begin to gain real black power. Number 1. The first step to taking over the world is unity. I know you have heard of this before, but black people seem to really struggle with this one. You just don't seem to get it. You would rather fight against each other, instead of your enemies. This is bad business and you will never get true freedom doing things this way. Instead, do what we did to gain power. We divided and conquered entire countries based on their differences, while holding true to our similarities. I am white. There is no changing that. My God-born tendency is to preserve my own. Nothing is racist about that. It is just common sense. You people are the stupid ones, going around trying to love everybody, but yourselves. We kicked your asses here in America for over 400 years, and you still go around talking about Jesus loves everyone. While you've been doing all the praying and jumping around, we have been buying up the world and making laws you have to abide by. No offense, but everyone else has unity but you. I mean, look at the business in your neighborhoods. The people that control it don't even look like you. In fact, everyone who comes to this country sets up a business in the black community. The Koreans, the Indians, the Chinese, the list goes on and on. Aren't you tired of letting these other people supply all of your food, nails, and weaves? The one thing they have that you don't is unity. Number 2. Once you get unity, you are going to need to get organized. When we took over the world, we had a plan in place. A goal. Since we whites make up a small percentage of the global population, we knew the only way for us to exist was to enslave non-white people. This was our global plan for white supremacy. But we didn't stop there. We organized a military force behind our goal and executed it to perfection. Killing men, women, and children across the globe with brute force. Whatever we needed, we just took it. And if blacks or Native Americans didn't like it, oh well. Remember, there are no rules in war. Our objective is to ensure survival. But you black people seem to think your economic hardships, social injustices, and high arrest rates just happened by chance alone. Never mind, we've worked nearly 4 centuries, day and night to keep you people exactly where we want you. On the plantation. Yeah, it's true. Let me tell you a little secret. Most white people are not going to tell you this. It's an old family secret we have kept pretty quiet about. And for good reason. You see, all that free labor my white ancestors got from your black ancestors translated into a lot of money. In fact, the black slave trade was the greatest wealth-building tool in human history. With free labor we were able to finance the Industrial Revolution. Well, all of that money pretty much stayed in the vast majority of white families. And with all due respect, whites intend to keep it that way. You see, Dr. Martin Luther King was pretty good at integrating lunch counters and toilets. However, he didn't do so well at integrating bank accounts. So you blacks were shafted out of the money that was due to you in exchange for a good job and education. But it was us whites who owned most of the jobs. Which brings me to my point. It's just another plantation. I say all of that to say, being organized is more than alignment. It is knowing the traps we have laid out for you, and then moving around them. Everybody knows but you blacks. That education will only keep you enslaved. It will only produce what it has already produced. A bunch of dressed-up plantation workers perfectly content, working and serving under another man's vision. You don't really think we are going to teach you to build a nation for yourselves, do you? If you were really educated, you would be able to solve your own problems. Problems like gang violence, poor economics, and underrepresentation. Instead, you will continue to pass the notion of getting a good job down to your children. This will brainwash them to be just like you. And the cycle will repeat for generations. While we whites continue to run things at the top, your grandchildren will be celebrating the first black Catholic Pope. I know this has been long, so let's move to number 3. The third way to gain black power is the most important of all. It is this way because it deals more with your psychology than your conscious mind. When we took over the world, we decided to use the most dangerous weapon of all to subjugate the darker peoples of the planet. We used the combination of white supremacy and religion to mindfuck these people into complete submission. If a robber breaks into your house, rapes your family, kills your mother and father, then tells you that in order to go to heaven, you have to worship as God. If someone did that to me, then said that to be born again, I had to worship as God, I'd kill the bastard right on the spot. But you black people seem to have no problem worshipping the God of your enemies. Even worse is the fact that for all the praying that you have done, it seems like the God of the white man is just as racist as we are. Anytime you start believing in the God of your enemy, it pretty much means you're a complete idiot and a pussy, who is too far gone to confront his adversary. This is a deep sickness because to believe the man who murdered your family is your friend, is to believe that watermelons have gills. This kind of thinking lacks critical reasoning, a skill needed to defend territory in the minds of the youth. You even believe that Haiti, the only black nation that ever kicked the white man's ass, is cursed because many of them practice voodoo. You even go further and believe that it was God that hit Haiti with a 7.5 earthquake. You religious-minded blacks thought this about New Orleans too. Let me tell you the truth. We gave you this God because we knew by worshipping a white God you would subconsciously be worshipping us. That was a part of our plan, and it worked like a charm on the early slave plantations. We whites decided to perfect it, and have taken our gods all over the world to dark people. You see, we know that if we can get you to put down your God, and pick up ours, you will lose your real power. This is really effective for controlling a people. Practically, by doing this, you will never fight against us because subconsciously you would be fighting God. I know that is a serious mindfuck, but that is why you cheer for a white Jesus to kill all the darkies down in Haiti and New Orleans, while kissing Pat Robertson's ass. Meanwhile, our heart machines can shake up more prime real estate for the oil companies. If you continue to follow the God of your enemies, you will never rule the world, because you will always have your allegiance with the white man, instead of your God, who's pissed off because you traded him in for a blonde-haired, blue-eyed hippie, whose name we took from the Greek god Zeus. So, let's recap. The top 3 things you need to do to rule the world, and to have black powers. Number 1, get some unity. Stop killing each other over nickel bags of wheat and coke. You are basically helping to kill off your own army. Stop it and unite. Number 2, get organized. There is nothing worse than a bunch of rich rappers talking about gangsta and keeping it real, when all of them still work for rich white and Jewish men that pimp them for their talent. With Jay-Z, P. Diddy and Oprah, you black people should have your own distribution company by now, instead of relying on your white backers to put out your albums. This is because you are not organized. This goes for all you sports athletes too. You black sports guys are stupid. You're a grown man and you still have an owner. Stop being a slave and wake up. When you die, all you will have to pass on to your children is a championship ring. When I die, I will have at least 2 islands and a few manufacturing companies to extend my legacy. For you sports guys, no one will remember you, and the money you blew on trying to floss will be right back into our hands. You need to organize and put your money and minds together for one common goal: black power. Last but not least, you have to stop following the white man's God. He has really done nothing for you since you started to believe in him. Basically, all my God has done for you is allow white guys like me to continue stealing from you. Sure, we'll give you a few rich blacks to make it up the ladder, but this is to keep up hope in you, so that you will teach cowardness and fear to your children and get nothing in return. You will keep praying while we will keep slaying, and taking more land and control of the earth. It will be this way as long as you fall for the lie that some white dude is going to come down from the skies and pull you out of this shit. Stop it. Instead, go back to believing in your God. The God you had when you were rich in Africa and had diamonds, gold, and health. It certainly beats the crap the white man's God has given you. Even if you believed in rocks, you would probably have more luck than what you have gotten with this guy. One last thing. Black people need to stop saying that they're blessed. This is not only dumb, but it lets us white people know that we are still very much in control. If I steal you from your home and throw you into a cardboard box, have you worked for 400 years on a plantation? Just because I give you a pillow, doesn't mean that you are blessed. It just means that I gave you a fucking pillow. If a guy cuts off your hand, and then turns around and gives you a bandage, it don't mean anyone blessed you. He just needs his slave to be able to work the next day. So you are not blessed just because the white man gives you a doggy treat. It simply means you are fucked. So given all the crap you blacks have dealt with here in America, and abroad, a new car or money for the light bill are just tools we white folks who are trying to run a plantation do to keep up the morale. So, if going from Africa, a land of milk and honey, diamonds and resources, a place where you had a name and thousands of acres of land, to a place where you are struggling to eat in a one-bedroom apartment every day means you are blessed, then elephants have fins and iPhones fart perfume. So put the white man's God down, and try to do something for yourself. I hope what I have given you today is food for thought. We will continue this series so that you black people are very clear on how to take over the world and have black power. Next time I will talk about how to make a black woman hate herself so much that she will put a blonde wig on her nappy head. Until next time, remember, I'm Stan the White Man. For more on how the white man rules, insider secrets, stay tuned.
So you see that? That's just the way it is for the black community. And it's really, really kind of funny that it took another tone of face to tell us about ourselves. But to the same degree of that white face telling us what we went wrong, they've also explained the fact of what they've done wrong to us. So therefore, you really need to try to understand that. I'm going to keep looping it and looping it and looping it on every show so you get to pay attention. That's what I want us all to do. Pay attention. Because what's up, world? It's your man, MrSan44Man. Now, if you've been watching my show and you tuned in, then you didn't watch Stan the White Man. Pam just did. What you think, Pam?
I'm ashamed of myself.
Why?
Because he just spoke my reality. Everything that the white man wants me to be, I am.
What about that God issue? It's heart-wrenching, isn't it? It's almost like losing a family member. We gave up our own God to worship another God. Well, y'all did. I didn't grow up like that, but I mean, I ain't trying to critique nobody's religion, but look how they fuck over Islam. They hate Islam. Every Christian hate Islam. But are you worshiping the God of your enemies?
Yep, I've been brainwashed.
Now, why we lost and walking around in circles? Matter of fact, we ain't even walking around in circles. We standing fucking still. That hurt you, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
I know, and I hope it hurts everybody, because I just pulled America's skirt up. I wanted you to hear that. I want you to be them feelings, because you know what you about to do? You about to change your game.
Yep.
This your man, MrSan44Man. Pam is hurt because she just heard that. And a lot of y'all around the world gonna be hurt. But like I told y'all yesterday, I done held back the big guns. And I held that for quite a while. I said I pacified myself like, San, is you gonna, but I have to. It has to be said. It has to be said. And it's gonna be said. And it's gonna be said right here on Detroit Raw. I'm sorry, y'all. Forgive me. But sometimes they say the truth hurts. But it's real and it's raw. Detroit Raw, only on YouTube. What's up, world? It's your man, MrSan44Man. As you see the building behind me, all the news reporters was coming down. There's Channel 4 right there. There's Channel 7 right there. All the news reporters was coming down to check out because they said that they couldn't find out what was going on. Was there no hot water in here? And they didn't know what was going on. So it was about to report a story of no hot water when you going to see that I had the building manager in here. So she told me that everything is all right. They're waiting on the part. The Strental person that couldn't pay their rent up in here just went out there and put that rumor out there. So they came out to investigate. But you know, your man, MrSan44Man, gonna get the true blue, cause I'm born, fed, and bred here, right here in the city of Detroit. And you know what? You only see an exclusive interview to Detroit Raw, only on YouTube. MrSan44Man, I'm down here with Miss Cole, the building manager here. They got the news media, as you see right here. Everybody is sitting back waiting for a story. But your man, MrSan44Man, got the hood. Tell us what's going on, baby.
The situation is that we are working on it. We do have hot water.
Okay.
We have a very disgruntled tenant.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Somebody just can't pay the rent and want to start some stuff. Okay, that's what's up. Now, y'all got it first, and that's the exclusive, y'all, right here.
Hot water is on.
Hot water is on, and everybody doing right because it's too hot. Now I have no water today, y'all.
And we do have hot water running.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.